I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if the guidance you've been searching for has been with you all along? And what if you could access a level of love and clarity beyond the human mind? Sue Elliott is an ancient soul here to help humanity rise into a higher level of consciousness rooted in divine unconditional love. Through decades of work as a coach, writer, and transformational guide, she has helped millions release limiting patterns, trust their intuition, and live with greater ease, joy, and peace. Before her spiritual awakening, Sue spent over 30 years as a magazine editor and entrepreneur, launching national automotive and culinary publications and a personal transformation magazine. She also led marketing agencies, worked with health and education tech startups, and has ghostwritten 2 books for actor Ed Begley Jr. Then everything changed. She began receiving messages from angels, opening the door to a profound new dimension of guidance, healing, and purpose. Her latest book, My Angel Coach, offers something extraordinary, a way to access loving, intuitive guidance anytime and remember their support that is always there. This is a conversation about intuition, about surrender, about higher consciousness and the unseen forces guiding your life. Because as Sue says, what if you are never alone and you are always being guided? Welcome, Sue. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you. It's a joy to be with you.
Likewise. Well, we were talking earlier, and I was just saying to Sue that I'm very excited about this topic and really intrigued as well. So, your path hasn't been linear, very much like my own. What were some of the defining chapters of your career before angel coaching? And looking back, do you feel that there were divinely orchestrated some of those paths?
Yes. So we're all on a divinely guided journey. Whatever we've experienced, the angels can use it for our benefit and for anyone else's. And I could kind of draw a linear line through parts of my career, right? The first 30 years were mostly being a magazine editor as a consultant. My specialty was creating new magazines to be sold on the newsstand. And it was always about following my passion. So I was engaged in really heart-centered industries. The automotive aftermarket, where people are really into making their car, more fun, more faster, a lot of racing in my background, and more comfortable, more convenient, more stylish, some incredible customization work. Those people always did that because that was their joy, that was their passion. And so it was a joy to be engaged with people who were so in love with what they did every day. And then later I moved up to the now because that's how much I love food and wine. And I started doing magazines about chef recipes and writing about food and wine for other publications. And then in the midst of doing that, I had started doing the cook. So when I moved to the Napa Valley, I was just so happy. As far as I was concerned, I was living in heaven, and people kept saying, "How do I get to be as happy as you are?" So I started helping others and started the Personal Transformation magazine, which was really my baby. That was bringing together all the years of magazine work with, the coaching I'd experienced from others, the hundreds of books I'd read on the subject in seminars and workshops. And so all of that kind of has a rather linear journey to it. There were detours to start marketing agencies. Later, after the world changed so much, and the publishing company I'd been working with killed more than half their titles, rebranded themselves as sort of a men's enthusiast company, I went through my own dark night of the soul. If I'm not a magazine editor and writer, who am I? And that's when I was put into lots of different situations to gather different kinds of experiences and skills, and also to learn how to do work from guidance. Like I started helping companies get their products into the major retailers in the United States. And I had always gone to trade shows to find cool products to share with magazine readers. But now I was going to find products that people would love to buy, and that would be good in Home Depot or AutoZone or Bed Bath and Beyond. And somehow I just knew how to do this, right? I could tune in and I could guide clients and I could help them, redesign their packaging and redesign their marketing. And then I started working in the technology startups and got really engaged in software development and leading a team and, being able to take complicated material and make it a user-friendly experience, with user interface design. And all of these things became relevant to clients that I had for the angel coaching later, to the point that the software
Mm.
development team I worked with ended up partnering with one of my clients down the road, and they're offering it at their own education technology startup now.
Wow. Yeah, I could see all of that. I mean, it's very interesting, and then you put a perspective on it that is different. Often the saying goes, "A master of all," or no, a jack of all trades, a master of none, which is very negative, a negative perspective. But this is a perspective that says these were all I was divinely guided to these different career choices for my path that's coming to me, that's preparing
Yes.
me in different ways for what's to come. So I love that. I love that there's that perspective because, yeah, I'm much like you. I have been, in the financial business. I've been in the production, television production. I've been a yoga instructor. I mean, yeah, but I'm in the end, it's like I think we're all being divinely guided. Absolutely. Yeah. I
Well,
just love that story. Go ahead.
and I believe that some of us are specialists, right? We value
Mm.
specialists. So neurosurgeons make more money than, general practitioners. Our culture trains us to value specialists. The concert level violinist makes a lot more money than the person who teaches violin to kids at the music store. And most of us are generalists. Most of us have been on this journey of learning all kinds of different things, and many of us synthesize those different things into our own unique flavor of coaching or healing or business consulting. It brings a depth and a breadth of understanding and perspective that's really valuable also.
Exactly. Yeah. We're all alchemists for sure.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've described, and thank you for that, by the way. I love that story. It really resonates, and it will resonate with many. You've described yourself as a recovering Ivy League intellectual. Now, I'm just really interested when I read this. So, take us to the moment that everything shifted. What happened the day you first began hearing angel voices, and how did you know that this guidance was real?
Ooh. Well, I was actually with a group of friends. We met 4 times a year and we were at a tea house. And one of the ladies who I didn't know very well said something about, I can't afford whatever she was talking about. And all I heard in my head was, tell her not to say that. And I'm like, I don't know this
Mm.
person and I'm not going to tell her not to say. I'm like arguing with the voices in my head, which of course we all do all the time. But these voices would not be quiet until I stopped the conversation of all these. It was like 15 women till I stopped the conversation and grabbed this woman's hands and said, please don't ever say I can't afford again. And the angels were wanting her to step out of fear and lack consciousness and to recognize that was not how she was choosing to spend her money. She actually did have the money for that. It was just not what she was choosing to spend it on. So there were interruptions like that in regular life for a while. And then not long after that, I moved up to the Napa Valley and I ended up sitting. I didn't really know anybody, so I would go to a restaurant and I would sit at the bar in the restaurant and order an appetizer and a glass of wine. And the angels would bring somebody in to sit next to me who was going through a major life crisis or decision choice. And So we would chat about what was going on. The angels would, share questions to ask them or things to tell them. And I would, because again, they wouldn't be quiet until I delivered the messages. And at the end of each of these conversations, the person would say, "Oh, thank you. Now I know exactly what to do. I have so much clarity." And then I would never see that person again. Years later, I looked back and I was like, I wonder if the angels made those people up so they could train me how to do this work.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, there are the good voices and the bad voices. So I would say pay attention to the voices in your head, but I guess you'd need to verify which ones. But that is that. I love that you took note of it, and you finally, because you said they wouldn't leave you alone, you finally came to the conclusion that, okay, I'm going to say this. If I, even though I don't know this person, or I'm in front of all these other individuals, and it doesn't matter what they think of me, I just need to say this. So kudos to you for stepping up. And obviously they knew that you had it in you to do that, because they chose you to be someone that they could speak through. So that's so fascinating. Well, for someone hearing this for the first time, what is angel coaching? And can you share a moment of a story where this work created a profound transformation?
Oh, yes. So, angel coaching was my own unique blend of life and business coaching, energy healing, and delivering guidance from the angels. And so much of it was helping people let go of limiting beliefs, let go of subconscious programming, the things that we learned when we were 2 years old and 4 years old that is still running the show behind the scenes. And but there are also things later in life. So the angels want me to share a story about a wonderful woman who came to me. She was having trouble in her marriage, and she had really armored up. She was very much braced against her husband, his relationship with his family, and it was affecting, obviously it was affecting her marriage, but it was affecting her sleep, it was affecting her physical health, it was affecting her business. We like to talk about work life balance, but really it's all one life. They're artificial distinctions. So after the angels and I worked with her in that first session, and we dissolved a lot of the stories that she had about what was going on and what was her responsibility, right? And what was not, what was hers to deal with and what was not hers to deal with, because we've been taught to try and control other people to feel safe and to be responsible citizens and whatever it may be. But so much of this was way outside her control. No matter how much she might want to control it, she could only really control how she showed up. So we worked with her. I heard from her the next day that she felt like she was on an angel high because she had set down the armor. She said, a couple days later, she reached out to me and said, "My friends say I'm back. Like, I was always happy and I had been so down for so long. They're like, I don't know what you did, but you're back." So the angels like to make everything easier. They really want us to give them our cares, our concerns, our fears, and let them take care of that stuff. That recovering Ivy League intellectual in me still wants to figure everything out between my ears. I still want to come up with the plan and the strategy and the tactics. And the angels are like, or you could just be present in the moment and tune into your guidance, and we'll show you the next step.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I love that you put that juxtaposition with the intellect, because there must be clients also that have that battle go on in their head. Once you coach them and they're like, then the intellect steps in and goes, "No, this is the way you have to do it." But yeah, I could see, and that's, well, what you refer to as the armor, which I love. She armored up, which means she put that shield on her, which we all do at one point or another in our lives. Like you said,
Yeah.
when the publication companies disappeared, you were in a loss. But there were probably moments where you had to armor up too, just so you wouldn't, be feeling what you should feel, only because, that's culture or society or what, or your beliefs, your families, that type of thing. So Yes, that's very interesting. Yeah. That, and I can see different types of coaching then too. That just popped into my head because there are those coaches who are goal, you have to have the goal, you have to have the, the tools, and then you have to take action. That's usually a traditional type of teaching, but this seems more like you're breaking through the boundaries. You're breaking through the wall. That's what it is. You're providing you're providing the hammer to break through the armor so that you can
Yeah.
breathe and make the space to live your best life. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Well,
it's
go
not like
ahead.
you give up your goals or you give up your freedom or your choice. The angels really help us receive things that are far better than we ever could have planned for. So the goals become more general, right? How can my life feel meaningful? How can I be a contribution to more people? How can I have more impact in the world? And as we get really general like that, they show us things that we never could have conceived of because they can see the big picture. We can only see a small piece of what's going on the planet.
Mm, yes. And make that space so that they can channel that to you. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. Well, I'm excited to get into your book because your book, My Angel Coach, it feels like an experience. So, what inspired you to create it, and what transformation do you hope that readers will walk away with?
Ooh, I love that question. So I was inspired to create it by the angels. They slowly were weaning me off the one-on-one coaching. So at one point I could do, maybe 3 sessions a day, and then it went down to 2 and then down to 1. And then they were like, okay, now it's time. You've been doing this for about 20 years. It's time to put everything into a book. There were only so many people I could work with one-on-one. And we wanted to make the teachings available to a much bigger audience. So obviously a book is a lot less expensive than private time with a coach. And it's available 24/7. And it includes all the best stuff that we shared with people over all those years, with lots of stories about me learning these things as we went. So I definitely don't put myself on a pedestal. Let's put it that way. There's a fair amount of do as I say, not as I do in there. And okay, that was the first part of your question. What inspired me to do the book? And an example of
Mhm.
what's in the book.
Right.
Hopefully we
And
can
what
edit this.
transformation, no, what transformation do you hope that readers will walk away with?
Thank you. We really hope that readers will walk away with the knowing that they are so loved and supported, and that divine guidance is available every moment of every day. You don't have to do a certain ritual or be in meditation. No matter how you're feeling, no matter what's going on, there is guidance being brought to you by legions of angels. And the more that you ask the angels for their help, the more they can help, because this is still a free will planet. So, our favorite example is if you're running around the house looking for your keys and you can't find your keys, the angels are jumping up and down going over here, over here. But if you ask them for help with that, they can knock the keys off the table so that you find them right away in the middle of the floor. So there is really so much support and help and love available to us all the time. And they really want us to hand over our cares, hand over our worries, hand over our fears. And they want to do it in a particular way. So usually when we ask for help, it's, please, 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 or I need this, or, it comes from a space of not having. And the angels like us to delegate to them by saying, thank you, angels, for taking care of, and you fill in the blank. Thank you, angels, for taking care of my child. Thank you, angels, for taking care of this project. Thank you, angels, for taking care of my body. The more general we get, the easier it is to feel the relief. When we say it that
Mm,
way, thank you for taking care of, we're acknowledging that angels are already on it. And so the idea
mm.
is to really feel a lightening of the load, right? I don't have the weight of the world on my shoulders anymore, or, oh, I can really breathe now. And if you don't feel that
Right.
when you first say thank you for taking care of, just play around with the words and what you're thanking the angels for until you do feel some relief. And we promise you there is nothing too big, nothing too small. the angels are infinite beings, so you asking them isn't going to deprive anybody else of help. So please ask all the time for help.
So I have a question. Do you feel that the angels are an energy?
They are. So they are the energy of love. And in a lot of ways, they're the sort of hands and feet of the divine. They're making divine perfect timing happen. They're the ones who give you red lights all the way there or green lights all the way there so that you arrive in just the right time, or so that you don't go through the intersection at just the wrong time and get broadsided by a semi truck. They're really able to help us navigate reality because they see so much more than we do. And
Right.
for the most part, they are non-physical, so energy is a perfect description of them. And yet they also will deliver our messages through other people, through song lyrics, through billboards, through all kinds of physical representations.
Interesting. Wow. This goes into my next question, so I don't want to ask it yet. But let's say, well, thank you. That's really fascinating. So the book includes. I wanted to point this out to people because it has some really great tools and practices. So your book includes 63 short chapters, and they're filled with stories, practices, and what you call angel attunements. And walk us through how someone would use this book in their daily life and share one simple but powerful practice.
Okay. Well, of course, you can read the book like a regular book from front to back, but I've been hearing from a lot of people that they like to read it at night. So they like to read one or two or maybe three short chapters before they fall asleep. You can use it as a daily practice. So you could read a chapter each day and really practice what was in that chapter. Or you can use it as a sort of angel reading. You can ask the angels a question and let the book open to a random page. Or if you have the ebook version, people sometimes hear a number, and that's the page or the chapter to look at to find your answer from the angels. And the angel attunements, we'll use this one. So the angel attunements are these colorful images and words that the angels have attuned to dissolve limiting beliefs and subconscious programming. So they're very powerful. You don't, unlike most self help books, you don't have to do it all yourself. You know, the angels are doing some of the work for you, which is beautiful. And they're happy to do it. So we'll use that one that we opened to because, we used as an angel divination tool. And the one that we got was Feel Your Way Forward. So this is perfect because you had mentioned before that we have all these voices in our head and they all sound different, right? Some of them are the critical, like,
Yeah.
mean teacher. Maybe you had a challenging parent. So we have those voices. Sometimes they're the cheerleader voices that feel very rah rah and sometimes they have neutrality. So a lot of the divine guidance feels very neutral. It just feels like, oh, of course it's that. So we call it of courseness. It has of courseness. It's just so obvious when it drops in. My inner 8-year-old is like, oh, duh, I knew that. So that's one way to know it's your guidance. The other way is by feeling your way forward. So when you feel your way forward, you're looking for that energy, that little pop of energy. So the angels like us to start with something really mundane, like what restaurant am I going to go to for dinner? So I might feel into that Italian restaurant that I like and nothing. And then maybe I'll feel into the Thai restaurant and nothing. And then I'll feel into that barbecue place and I'm like, oh, I got a pop of energy on that one. So that's how we know that that's a yes for us. The other ways that we feel the way forward is, interest, eagerness, curiosity. Like, oh, I'd love to learn more about that. Or, oh, I'd love to take another class in that. So sometimes we ask really big questions that we can't possibly get an answer to when we're trying to get our guidance. Is this person the one for me? I've been on one date. Is this the one? Like, there are many moving parts and pieces in the universe, and you don't know that person very well. And you may be evolving. Of course, you are always evolving, and they are evolving. But the question you can answer is, do I want to go on one more date with that person? And when I ask that question, I'm very clear yes or no. So they're also encouraging us to ask these really incremental kind of questions. What's the next step? Which way to go now? Do I call this person? Do I call that person?
Well, that's really interesting, because most people go right to the very large questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? All those kind of things. But these incremental steps, I would never have thought of that. You always want to ask, like, when people pray to whomever, they usually ask those big questions. But I love that you said you start with the incremental questions. And yes, and then they can answer that through different ways. Is that a way of testing it, though? And then do you go to the bigger questions, or you just stay with those incremental questions? Now I'm curious.
Well, there's a both and there. So the angels do want to say that many times when people are shown their entire path in one vision, it's overwhelming. So
Mm.
they have a tendency not to show us that much at one time. Now, you may get the sense of, oh, I'm going to create a book, or, oh, I'm going to create a new program, or, oh, this product that we have in our company would be great in this new market. We're going to move in this direction. So that's more than one step, of course. But then we get that vision and we sit in the question of, okay, how do I get from here to there? And all of us recovering intellectuals want to draw out the plan. We want to do the 5-year plan, and we want to do all the mileposts, and to some degree, we have to do some, maybe cash flow planning. We have to do some budgeting. We may need to hire some people. Like, there's planning that needs to be done. But at every step of the journey, we're being invited to keep tuning into how it feels, keep tuning into what new questions are arising. So it begins to be a more collaborative and co-creative dance in the workplace or in family or in a relationship. So I'm feeling confusion. I could pretend to be the leader who knows all the answers, which most of us have been taught to be, or I could show up and I could ask my team, like, I'm feeling a lot of turbulence in this area. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. What are you guys getting? And as people bring
Mm.
their pieces of the puzzle together, we get to create something that's richer and more meaningful to everybody, and that likely is going to be way more successful because different people bring their perspectives, right? So I see, if we take this step, we might have all these unintended consequences, right? They're
Mm.
reminding me of when Chevrolet brought the Nova to Mexico, and Nova means it doesn't go, and nobody wanted to buy a car called it doesn't go, right? Like, if they had had anybody Spanish speaking on the team and asked them for input, they would have been able to point this out long before the car ever got there. So the bringing these different perspectives together and feeling our way forward together as a team or as individuals is super valuable. And it's a very different way for many of us of doing work. But so many of us have been yearning for more connection and more camaraderie and more collaboration. Everybody always talks about how it's lonely at the top. And the angels want to add that it doesn't have to be that way, right? They can guide us. So it's not that we're wishy washy or surrendering our power, but we are being more of an invitation to bring more information. If we're bringing people from different departments together, we're going to get a lot more perspective, and we're going to get more buy-in and all the things that leaders want. We're going to get more engagement. You're probably going to be able to sleep more easily at night because you're not faking it until you make it, or doing your best to hold it all together when you know that we're in a world where change is happening so quickly. We can't possibly predict what's going to be 5 years from now at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're doing it, say writing a book, it's something that you would pause and ask the angels. Like you say, when you're in a team, you often say, this has been on my mind, or blah, blah, blah. But yes, it's so interesting because it's making that space for your mind to slow down and invite in the energy of the angels, whatever you want to call it, just to it's out there. They always say whatever you're looking for is out there. You just have to make the space to connect, the alignment. That's it. It's the alignment. Yeah.
Yes.
At least that's
And it's
how I feel it.
And it's such
Good.
a relief to not have to figure it all out by yourself. When I moved from trying to figure everything out between my ears into tuning into my body and my heart and my gut, it is that intuition, and our bodies will give us the truth of the moment. Our minds see the world through those filters of limiting beliefs and experiences we've had and the subconscious programming, but our body doesn't have any of those filters. So when you feel like, wow, that just knocked the wind out of me, or that person stabbed me in the back, or, ooh, that just gave me goosebumps, like that is your guidance speaking loud and clear.
Mm, that's gold. Listen to your body. Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad you said that, because that is really that's it. It's very much into intuitive. Yeah, certainly. Well, you founded a nationwide magazine around the law of attraction, but later you began to question some of its teachings. So, what shifted for you, and what do you now understand that most people still miss?
Oh gosh. So I put out Law of Attraction magazine. It was on the newsstands from 2011 to 14. And it was always broader than that, right? We were always bringing in all kinds of teachings to help you release stress and worries and fears. And at that time, there were a lot of law of attraction teachers and practices that were very much like micromanaging the universe, right? I want my ideal partner at 3 o'clock on Thursday, and I have this list of characteristics that I'm looking for. Please bring that then. And it was kind of like putting your order at a cosmic restaurant, right? I want this and this and this with a dollop of that on the side. And we began to see, and the angels began to say, we may not be ready for that relationship at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So, what we're going to get instead is the next step toward being ready for that relationship. So, we're going to get the person who helps us see that items 3, 4, and 27 on the list of things I wanted were actually things that my parents wanted and not at all what I want. So first I have to see that. And then maybe the next day with a different person, we realize, oh, wow, I was really armored up. Maybe it's
Mm,
time to start doing a little work to heal some of the wounds of the past and let go of some of those fears I have of what would happen if I actually did let myself fall in love again. So we're being taken on this journey of evolving and becoming ready for that thing that we want. But the practices and processes that said, bring me that thing at that time, don't seem like we're failing when it doesn't show up. When we get
mm,
that person at 3 o'clock on Thursday, but they turn out not to be the one, we think something went wrong. When really it was divine perfection unfolding. It just didn't look the way we thought it was supposed to look.
right. Yeah. Yeah, they were giving the perspective that by doing a manifestation or a mantra or whatever, that you just keep repeating that and it will happen. But there's a lot more to it than that, as we've all come to learn now. I mean, there's more science behind a lot of that as well, that they're about the energy sources and aligning and so on and so forth. But yes, absolutely, that, yeah, the law of attraction. I mean, I can't, I don't know anyone who didn't see the film. It was very entertaining and very powerful, because we all went down that road. It's like, wow, okay, we can do this. But yeah, there are more nuances to it as we're learning. This is, I always say, life is a practice, and we're
Yes.
always growing and learning, and we're practicing. We have to, like you say, we have might go through one door, but that leads to another door. It's not the door. But yeah. So, well, thank you for that. Now, you've used the phrase original factory setting, which I love. And I know I read that you took that from your days working in the auto, with the auto magazine. But what does that mean? And how do you return to it in a world that is constantly pulling us away from ourselves?
Ooh. Well, by original factory settings, we mean, well, with cars, most cars and trucks for quite a long time now have been computer controlled. And so the computer literally came with the original factory settings. And if you want to make it perform better, you have to change them from the original factory settings, which can be lots of fun for cars and trucks, but not so fun for humans. The things that change us from our original factory settings are those limiting beliefs, the traumas that we've had, the shaming that we've experienced. And so the returning to our original factory settings is something that the angels are really good at, because the way we were originally before the world, got its slings and arrows in, was innocent, curious, learning effortlessly all the time, really 100% engaged with life, so present in the moment. Think of a little toddler where everything is new and interesting, everything from a butterfly to the way water comes out of the faucet, right? Everything is cool. We can absolutely show up that way again. And the beauty of that is that that's where all our power is. We get bogged down by those worries about the future and concerns, disappointments of the past. But the more that we allow the angels, and they can do this for you any moment, to dissolve that stuff that's not authentically us, to dissolve that stuff that's been piled on us by well-meaning parents and teachers, and if you grew up in a religion, the more we can allow that stuff to fall away, so that all we really have to do is notice how we're feeling. If we're upset, if we're feeling turbulence, calm, soothe ourselves, reach out for a hug, see a coach, whatever it is that can help you, and then tune into our guidance. So, angels, is there something for me to do or say right now? Is my favorite question to tune into guidance, because it's always appropriate. And the angels want to say, most of the time, there is nothing for us to do or say. We feel like we always need to be doing something. So there's this balance, right, between the doingness, the way we were trained, so that we always have to make everything happen, and the beingness of this sitting in meditation or, setting my intentions and journaling. The where those things intersect most powerfully is when the doingness comes from inspiration, guidance, intuition, and we take the inspired action.
Yes, it's you. I just spoke with a gentleman, and he had a very powerful quote that he gave us, and it said, "Comparison is the killer of joy." And you mentioned
Yes.
that, you're saying we're always feeling that we have to be doing something. We have to, you're comparing yourself to whatever the title might be, or the accomplishments that you have or haven't gotten, and the ones that all your friends have gotten, or unfortunately social media, which is not really real. But you see everybody going on luxurious trips or buying these new cars or these mansions, and you're just, yeah, it's like you said, it's that noise, static, that I call, that interferes with our innate ability to live in a divine alignment with these angels, with a higher source that is, like you said, always available to us. But it's like like a shield of static that is surrounding us, and it's almost like we need to punch through that. I mean, I'm just very visual, so it's like, and break
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And the angels want to add one of our favorite practices for when you're noticing those things, when you're playing the comparison game, and we've all been taught to do it. Instead of beating yourself up for that person being prettier or richer or more successful, appreciate it. Wow, I appreciate the amazing things that person has accomplished. I appreciate that person's inner and outer beauty. The more we can shift our relationship with it to she has it and I don't, and that sucks, to she has it and that means it's possible for me to have that or something better, right? What would you bring me? Angels, that feels like I'm accomplishing wonderful things. And, I speak this from experience. There have been many times where I've looked at my scroll on LinkedIn and been like, I want to accomplish big, important things too. You know, and the angels are like, yes, if you help one person, that is valuable.
Yes, I love that. Yes, and I love what you just said. Change it to I appreciate the beauty in that individual. I appreciate the success in that person. That completely changes your energy around it. It totally, even from you saying that, it totally shifted for me. I was like, wow, from now on, that's what I'm like. Like all humans, like yourself as well, you look at things and you're like, okay, wow, why aren't I doing that now? Or look at whoever, and it's like, now when you look at it from I appreciate, yeah, it changes your whole, not just your perspective, but your energy. And let's face it, that's what goes out into the world. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. I really love that. Well, you say that each of us has our own unique guidance. We said this at the beginning. So why is it that, what is the distinction and the importance, and how can someone begin to trust that they're receiving? Because I know a lot of us don't trust it.
Yes. Ooh, yes. Second guessers anonymous. Yes. Uh, so we talk a lot about your own unique guidance because there are plenty of lists of rules of how you're supposed to do everything from, being a parent to cooking a meal. There are rules for everything, and there are very well-meaning experts who changed what they ate and changed the way they exercised and healed their diabetes and put out a program so that you can have the same results. And yet what worked for that person may not be what's going to work for you. And that's why the core message is to keep tuning into your own guidance rather than that person's guidance, right? What worked for that person is very unique, and you are totally unique. There is not another being on this planet or anywhere in the cosmos exactly like you. So your guidance comes in knowing where you are on your journey, what you've accomplished, what you've had trouble with, where you have woundedness. It takes all of that into account and where you're going, right? So the angels are helping you arrive in the perfect place in perfect timing. And so that's why we keep saying tune into your own guidance moment by moment. And you'll know it's your guidance because of that, of courseness, because of that energy calling you forward. It feels interesting. It feels exciting. It may be something really mundane. So sometimes your guidance may be go to the bathroom at the other end of the building. And you're like, but there's a bathroom right here. But if you go to the bathroom at the other end of the building, you're going to cross paths with the person who has the answer to the question you were just working on. So
Mm.
they're encouraging us to practice with little stuff like that. Like, okay, I'm going to go to lunch. Where am I going to go to lunch today? Or, oh, I'm looking at the menu. What am I going to eat? What pops out at me? What has energy? What has
Mm.
sometimes I can only see one thing on a menu. Like I'll try to read the whole menu and I just can't. I can only see that one thing. And I'm like, okay, that was obvious enough. I'll get that.
Okay, a light bulb just went on for me. This is interesting. You're referring to this, and now I understand why they want you to sort of tune into those little happenings, like just take those little questions, because, like you said, when that message comes to you that says, no, you need to use the bathroom down there, you're tuned into their message and saying, okay, I'm going to listen to this. But if you hadn't been accustomed to tuning into the attunement, like these little things that you've been practicing, then you would override it and you would go to the bathroom that's closer to you. So it's the practice. It's like I practice handstand, which I really do. I love it, but it's the practice of doing it over and over and over again that makes you more in line with getting the better alignment, say in handstand, or in your case, getting more trustworthy of those messages that you're getting and saying, yes, now I need to do this. I mean,
Yes.
that's go ahead.
One of the ways that they help us stop the second guessing is by doing that, by seeing the results, right? So I went ahead and I did go to that other bathroom, even though that seemed like the dumbest advice. And I crossed paths with the person who had the answer. So they love for us to make a list of these things like, oh, and it worked that time, and it worked that time, and it worked that time. Because there are going to be those times where we turned right instead of going straight. So we didn't go through the intersection at the wrong time and we didn't get into the car crash. So we're not going to have evidence every time. Sometimes we avoided something that we would much rather avoid. So the more we can practice doing it with little things all day, each day,
Mm.
the more we begin to lean into trust and the more we begin to take the bigger steps, right?
Right.
I'm getting the sense that I need to go to this meeting in Portugal, even though I have no idea why I need to go. So if we've done it with the little things like going to the bathroom at the other end of the building and choosing that food and knowing that the thing we were ordinarily going to order, my friend got food poisoning from, right? We start to see the evidence that's like, oh, you were right. Oh, you were right again. Okay.
Mm.
I'll listen on the big stuff that takes a little bit more effort.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. That's great. I love it. Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is it's interesting. I this is what I said. I'm a very curious person and I love learning. So this is like, okay, now in those voices in my head, it's like, okay, I know you're there. You're trying to give me a message. I'll listen to you. Not like, shut up. Stop bothering me. But yeah, okay. Well, many of us have learned to avoid or override a negative emotions, which is very much a cultural society. It looms on over all of us. But you and the angels offer a very different approach. What are we getting wrong about emotions, and what becomes possible when we relate to them differently?
Ooh, I love this. And this also goes back to the law of attraction teachings and the problems we used to have with them too. Because
Mm.
for everyone from, the power of positive thinking to the secret is telling you, feel positive, feel good. If you don't, pivot, fake it till you make it, whatever it is. And the angels want to say, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that goes on. And there's a lot of pushing down the so called negative emotions that just get stuck in our system physically and emotionally and energetically. And that's not healthy for us. They're asking us to instead treat each emotion as a messenger. So that emotion is showing up, it's a part of you that has something to say, and it's allowed. We don't want you to never feel fear or never feel sad or never feel angry. It's not only okay to feel those things, it's perfect if you just have a conversation with anger or fear or sadness and let them deliver their message. Because as soon as they deliver the message, the emotion dissipates, right? I'm not sad anymore. It may come back if it's something big, like grief over someone who's just passed away. It may keep popping up, but as I have the conversation with grief each time, there's something beautiful. There's a gem. There's something really valuable being delivered. And it's a very loving way to treat yourself. When you're
Mm.
making yourself wrong for feeling however you really genuinely feel, that's not very kind and loving. The angels want us to be unconditionally loving to ourselves in the same way that they love us unconditionally.
Right. Yes, kindness. But number one, kindness to ourselves. Compassion. There's been so much written about compassion, especially in the spiritual world, and it's to ourselves because we are the
Yes.
least compassionate to ourselves as a race. We're always beating ourselves up or pushing to strive for more, or just double or second guessing ourselves, and yeah. Or if we get hurt or sick, it's like, just suck it up. It's like, yeah. But yeah, it's a powerful emotion, and it really is one that we have to learn to practice. There's no question.
Yes. So being compassion for others at the expense of self is not
Mm.
going to it's not going to get us to the world that we know is possible, right? It's time to stop self-sacrificing as it's time at the other end of the spectrum to stop, manipulating, controlling, and taking advantage of others. I'm guessing that the people that we attract are less on that program, but wherever you are on your journey, it doesn't matter. The answer to all of that is being love for ourselves first. So when we notice that we're feeling turbulent, we're feeling anything less than inner harmony, if we take a moment or an hour or sometimes a week and we come back into alignment, into harmony, then everything we do from that place is so much more effective than the things we do when we're flailing around in fear and worry and urgency and hustle and struggling and striving. When we are tuned into our intuition, our divine guidance about next steps, and we take that inspired action, that action is hundreds, thousands, millions of times more effective than the motivated action we were trying to make ourselves do.
Oh, there's no question. Yeah. And it's not just something for others, but it's empowering for yourself. Because when it's inspired action, it's coming from within. Yeah.
Yes. And if somebody has upset you, right? If somebody has done something that was really triggering, if you just react in the moment, it often has larger repercussions or just plays out that same scene in your family dynamic that you've had a million times that you don't want to do anymore. Like, been there, done that, didn't like it. So when you take that moment to come into inner harmony before you respond to that person, your response is going to be quite different than when you're triggered in the moment. And so the whole trajectory of that unfolding changes. Instead of having that same conversation over and over again, it can be a completely new conversation. Our old family dynamics and difficult patterns can dissolve that quickly when we give ourselves permission to show up for ourselves first and then deal with whatever is in front of us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. It's so powerful. Well, Sue, if there was someone listening right now who feels lost and disconnected or unsure of their path, and what is the one message that the angels would want them to hear today?
Ooh. First, they want you to know how loved and supported you are. You literally have legions of angels available to you every moment of every day. And they want to say you can't get off your path. Just like my path to where I am right now was not linear, it's all path. There's really nothing that you could do that the angels wouldn't be able to use for your benefit and others' benefit. And we recognize that we've all had traumas. And the angels want to help to reset our nervous systems, our emotions, our memories from trauma. But most of all, they want us to continue to tune in each day. If you forget, it's fine. Don't beat yourself up. It's like when you're meditating, right? Your mind starts to wander and then you just bring yourself back. Bring yourself back to, I'm here right now. If you're feeling fearful around money, for example, they're saying remind yourself that right here, right now, I have everything I need. Just for this moment, maybe not 20 minutes from now, but right here, I have what I need. The more we can keep coming back to the present moment and then delegate whatever we're worried about to the angels. Thank you, angels, for taking care of money. Thank you, angels, for taking care of everything that worries me. The more we can enjoy our lives, really, at the end of the day, the angels would like to see each of us flourish and thrive. And so many of us have been in survival mode for such a long time. They want to give us this one very simple practice that's free and available to you every moment of every day. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. If your nervous system has been on high alert for a minute because you've been stressing over something, or for years because you've had trauma, closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths tells your entire system that it's a false alarm, that everything is okay right now. When you're running from the saber-toothed tiger, you can't close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. So it reaches that really primal part of your brain and tells it to reset, to stop sending the cascade of stress hormones and to start sending the rest and digest hormones through your system. It begins to give you access to higher reasoning. When you're in fight or flight, you are not accessing your prefrontal cortex. So that simple act of closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths has incredibly powerful effects on your physical, mental, and emotional body. And so, if need be, set a timer on your phone to do it every 15 minutes until you start to feel more calm, less stressed. And as you get into that space of more calm, less stressed, you'll begin to see the doors that are opening. You'll begin to see the red carpet that the angels rolling out in front of you. You'll begin to see the options that you have. The angels want to say that most of us only see 1 or 2 possibilities around any given choice. But actually, we have access to infinite possibilities. And when we relax even just a little bit, we begin to see more possibility. So the angels will keep bringing you opportunities to practice this. You're probably going to see pictures of angels. You're going to meet people named Angel. You might see white feathers. You might see 222 on the clock. They're going to keep bringing you reminders that they're there, that they would love to help even more, and that all you ever have to do is ask.
Well, thank you for that. That is so beautiful. Everyone can tune into that and use it as a meditation, for sure. Well, tell our audience, Sue, how best they can connect with you and purchase your book.
Yes. So the website is myangelcoach.com. You'll find everything you need there. So the book is My Angel Coach, myangelcoach.com.
There you go.
There we go.
No.
And we do have, speaking of meditations, we do have an 8-minute audio as a gift for you called Soothing Energy from the Angels. So it's akin to what you just experienced, but it is different. We recommend it when you're stressed out. We recommend it when you're going on a job interview, going to meet with the in-laws when they're a little challenging, whatever it may be. And you can find that at myangelcoach.com/soothing-energy. So thank you so much for the opportunity to spread the angel love.
Well, we're so fortunate to have you here. And because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, we have one last question. If your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
She finally learned to listen.
That's good. That really resonates, especially with what we've been talking about. Yes, she finally learned to listen. And wow, what the results. That's fantastic. Well, thank you again, Sue, for reminding us that the real question isn't whether guidance exists, but whether you're finally ready to listen. So once again, for information and to connect with Sue, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of her direct contact information and book release. And if today's conversation sparked your curiosity, be sure to follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone, and tag someone who loves epic conversations. Follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath and look me up at janeapplegath.com. Sending you much love and gratitude. Until next time, stay visionary, lead with love, stay epic.